Okay, we're going to work on this petal now. And it is quite orange at the ends with some bits of red, and then it gets into this yellowish with a little bit of green in it. And it goes around this other petal right here. So I'm going to start with the yellow because that's the color that it's the easiest to lose. And of course this is way brighter than what is showing there. And I'm going to be careful as I go around that petal. Soften the edges. You can sometimes soften the edge just by laying your brush on the side. This petal goes all the way up to there, and a big part of that is shadow. Okay, now I want to, before I go any further, get the greens into that yellow. I'm softening that edge some more so that it kind of disappears. All right. Now there's some greens in here that are actually a little bit brown, and they go right up to that petal, and it helps to make the shadow happen. Definitely needs the brown in there, because if it's a bright green, then it just says, look at me, and you don't really want that part to necessarily be stared at. Now, there's some greens up in here, and I'm going to actually put them in first, really thin. You know, if you need to use a skinnier brush than this, you can. It kind of depends how steady your hand is. And I'm going to get this pattern of strokes going in here. And here there's actually a little shadow cast by the fold. And then I'm going to paint right over that and get the rest of my colors, hopefully, just right. And it'll take out some of the definition as I put the paint across there. So that's a nice orange. I'm not going to worry about all the veining right now. I'm just going to get this in there. A little bit oranger than that. And I just used some Pyrrole orange, which is super intensely bright, and I don't quite want it that intense. So see how those lines are staying behind, and they're forming the look of the shadow. Now this is a separate part of the petal than that little bit right there. That little bit is folded back, so I'm going to leave that for later. And then down here, the seam, the fold disappears, and it all becomes one petal here, right there. Gonna get rid of this again. Anytime that you don't know what to do next, just soften your edge while you think about it. Yeah. So that you don't end up with very strange lines here and there where you don't want them. So now there's a little bit of green down here as well. That forms the shadows down here. And I'm just going to put some in and then paint over it again, softening those edges though. And that green actually comes down. And the veins go this way, but they're not green veins. And if you want to put the veins in, just do it where it's dry. Which is, just put a suggestion of veins. You don't want this to get so busy as what shows in this picture. Okay, now we're looking at an orange here. And I'm going to paint over those veins, and they should still show through a little bit. And, all of this goes in a directional way. So I'm going to try and get some of that idea in, but I can add it later. Now we're getting into a redder orange as we go up here. It kind of softens at the edge, but you have to do that quickly if you want to. But if you don't want to bother with that, just go to the edge And don't try to soften it, because it's better to have your main color right than to have all these soft edges perfect. Okay, I'm putting some of this directional lines in here. Now this little spot right here, I am going to save that for later, because right now this is too wet and it's going to run into it. And I do still have some places that are not quite light enough, dark enough. And this is one. And since this is dry, I can do this without it running. So I'm just adding a tinge of green to darken that. And then I probably need to walk away from this a little bit before I can determine exactly what the petal needs. After a while, your eyes get adjusted to what you're looking at and you don't see things well. It's good to walk away from things every few minutes if possible, or at least look around the room and off into the distance if you can. Now down here, I need to still put more green and get darker. So I'm gonna do that. It needs more orange and more green. And that'll make this part of the leaf go back. This shadow right here that is cast by this petal is going to get put in later, also when the paper's dry. Okay, I think I'm going to stop now. Thank you for watching.